two writers, one just starting out, the other a bestseller. Join James Blatch and Mark Dawson and their amazing guests as they discuss how you can make a living telling stories. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast with James Blatch and Mark Dawson. Mark Dawson and also starring James Blatch. Welcome along. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm in full Santa mode. Santa, I know him. This is my Christmas jumper. It's even got, if you get down here on the video camera, you can see that there's a little scarf. It's 3D, this jumper.
Wow.
You're very impressed.
No expense spent.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got another one coming, actually. I've got an Elf jumper this year because we're going to see Elf as a family in London, which we always watch Elf every year. It's not the greatest Christmas film, but it's very close to it. I think, what's your greatest Christmas film before I tell you mine?
Probably is actually Elf.
Elf is...
It's a Wonderful Life is a pretty easy bet, isn't it? But yeah, Elf is quite hard to beat.
I'm a big fan. I've got a top three. So National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is number 3. Elf is number 2. And for me, Muppet Christmas Carol is the greatest Christmas film ever made. Number 1 is
Interesting
superb.
choice.
I think Gonzo is not surpassed in that film. Yeah, so it's our Christmas edition. So if you're watching this in June 2019, just try to imagine that it's all snowy. And snow, I've just had an alert on my phone saying snow is due this weekend in the UK. I don't know if you get that.
No, I know it's cold here. It is cold, and I think the children at school. I dropped my daughter off this morning. She was they were saying it's going to snow today, and I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it isn't. But anyway, what do I know? It's cold enough. Getting there.
There could be some snow coming. It'd be lovely to have a white Christmas. Now, this is the last podcast episode before we draw a name to be our first book lab person. So you've got a few more days. We're going to draw it just, we'll say after Christmas, so after the 25th of December with the cutoff point. So if you're not a gold level patreon.com subscriber for the podcast, you want to get yourself in there. We're going to draw a name, and that person will have their book cover, their marketing, their blurb, everything properly analysed by a team of experts, and then we'll have a podcast episode going through all of that. We're going to do it 3 or 4 times next year, maybe even more. So make sure you keep your subscription going to be in with a chance of that, as well as all the other things you get as a gold level podcast subscriber. Not only, actually, this is the UK mug. Very rare is the US mug, which looks slightly different. It gets sent out by our team in the States. Okay, look, it's very meta in the self-publishing world, this podcast today, isn't it? Because we are now, I think, an established self-publishing podcast. I think we can say that. And in fact, I did notice on iTunes, I think I sent you a screen grab, didn't I? That we are, if you put in self-publishing and press return, we came up first.
Yeah, in your face, Joanna Penn.
Yeah. Let's not be like that. Let's be supportive. And I don't know, I'm more hesitant about saying that because someone else in another part of the world will do a search and the algorithms work differently. But exactly. That's how it worked for me on that occasion. Unless Apple were just doing that for me. But they're before us and still going, and an absolute force of nature in self-publishing. And I have to say, completely, we love them, are the self-publishing podcast, Johnny, Sean and Dave. And so today we've got a kind of, it's like crossing the streams, isn't it, in Ghostbusters, something you're told never to do. But we're going to do that today. So we bumped into Johnny and Sean in Florida at NINC last year. Not last year, this year. It's not actually yet, unless you are listening in 2019. And we had an opportunity to sit down and chat with them. And I say chat with them. What that basically means when Johnny and Sean are chatting together is that Sean is chatting and Johnny and I are trying to get a word in edgeways. I mean, he is a force of nature, and it kind of, everyone orbits around him. But no, Johnny is also a fantastic influence on that team. It's an interesting team dynamic, actually, isn't it? There's nothing subtle there.
No, not really. There's obviously 3 of them. So Dave didn't go to NINC because he doesn't leave his house very much, as far as I can make out. But no, and Dave is very different from Johnny and Sean, much quieter, more reflective. But you're right. Johnny and Sean are both big personalities. Yeah, and I think in the interview we talk about the fact that Johnny is quite extroverted and not shy, and Sean is quite shy, which obviously is the pole opposite.
But then you mentioned Joe Penn. That's a bit like Joe, who stands up in front of, I saw her recently at a conference in London, standing up in front of 400 people. And at the end of the talks, mentioning the fact that this was really difficult for her and that she's introverted and finds it very difficult to stand up and talk to people. And there was a lot of sympathy in the room, because suddenly in that space, particularly authors, you get lots of people who are exactly the same as that, but want to know how to build forward. And Sean is someone who takes that on, I think, and despite it is quite difficult to imagine him as a shy individual, but it is something I think he struggled with a little bit. Anyway, enough of the personality breakdown of the two of them. Should we get on with the interview?
Let's do it.
Let's do that. Let's hear from Johnny and Sean, and then Mark and I will be back off the back. So Johnny and Sean from the self. Oh, and that's your mic. Look how professional. I'm now gaga because I'm in front of self-publishing podcast professionals. Desperately,
no one's ever used the word professional in our space before.
Desperately trying to make it look like I am as well. Welcome to the SPF podcast.
Thank you.
In fact, Sean, you come back here because you are
2 or 3.
I think you were 2. You're really early guest, and you were fantastic and full of energy. And your podcast is known for that. And your lives actually are complicated and busy in terms of publishing. And I struggle to keep up. That's one of the reasons why I think we're going to have you on now. Try and see what's going on at the moment and what's working.
Yeah, you know us. We'll talk about anything. Just that's the question.
Yeah, let's start off by talking about Nink, because that's where we are today. Obviously, this podcast is going to go out in a few weeks, but you have that's probably my fault, some noises off. You've just done a 2-hour presentation, which is quite a big ask. And I know on a recent podcast I've been listening recently, you talked about not wanting to plan too much for your presentation. So how did you approach it today?
Yeah, well, that's not our strength. We did the keynote at Author Marketing Live 4 years ago. Is it that long?
I think so.
So it's 4 years ago. That's a long time. And we had it was one of those things where they give you the PowerPoint and they said, just fill it in. So it's their template and bullet points.
Okay.
And if we're going to make a keynote, we kind of want to do it our way, and we couldn't. So we had the template, and that was hard enough. And we thought, this is a professional thing. Like, we're going to actually do this. It's a keynote. I think it was our first time ever doing anything together, at least. And we're going to do this. We're going to take it seriously. So we printed off the entire deck, and we went to a coffee shop about 2 hours before we're supposed to keynote. And we're looking at these, and we're trying really hard. We're giving it the college try. Like, people are here. They expect us to keynote. We're going to be professional. And we got through 3 pages, maybe, and said, this does not make any sense. This is not who we are. We don't work off of bullet points, and it's not stilted. And even then, I think we did our job that we were supposed to do for that keynote, but this was much more relaxed because we just had 17 images, essentially. And we had a lot of notes, but I'd say we were 90% off script.
Yeah, we didn't hit a lot of the notes. It was so much of it was extemporaneous. It was just like, okay, well, here's a story that's occurring to me. So, we were just rolled with it.
But we just spoke to Julie, who's president-elect, and organised this conference, and she said the room was packed, no one wanted to leave, there was a vibrancy, and so she was really pleased with it. So there's a bit of feedback for you.
Oh, thank you.
That's fantastic to hear. Yeah,
it's really nice. I mean, there was definitely the laughter, which is good. It makes us feel, I think when we feel a little bit of warmth like that from laughter, it gives us permission to just be ourselves more.
Yes.
And I think the more, like, we don't have a lot of secrets. Like, we're very interested in just telling it like it is. And that's kind of hard when you go into a situation like this, because we're not necessarily talking to our people. I mean, we know that there were a few people in the audience who know who we are, and you try to talk to them, but you want to connect with the whole entire room. And it's harder when people don't know who you are, because you want to make sure that you are yourself, but you're a version of yourself that's not offending to them in some way. And we do like our 4-letter words, and we like to be colorful, and you don't know if you're going to rub somebody the wrong way, but as much as I don't want to rub anyone the wrong way or hurt their feelings or say anything that's going to, clash with their sensibilities, I need to be myself, because that's the way that I deliver information the best.
Right, like we could deliver a mediocre version of ourselves in order to not offend anybody, but it's not going to be as good of a presentation. It's going to be much more stilted, and it's not we're not going to get that dynamic audience interaction.
Yeah, and it's not you, is it?
Yeah,
so, and you do get the explicit tag more than we do. But what I like is that within 30 seconds of this interview, you added it to this.
Well, I know, and I thought, damn it, I really shouldn't have done that, but it's already there.
Well, you guys should, because when you swear with the UK accent, it's just so much more exquisite than what we do.
Oh, I know. You guys, it's like poetry. I could listen to 45 minutes of just swearing from the UK.
Yeah. Well, there's several TV programs that do just that and then trade exactly on that. Is this a conscious decision of you guys to get out more and do conferences? Or did you just get invited and think we'll do it?
We were invited. We wanted to go to NINC for a while. This is something that's kind of been on our list, and we couldn't really make room for it. And honestly, if we hadn't been invited to speak, I don't think we would have come this year.
We wouldn't have come. In fact, this was really hard because we've been really, really, really busy. And so even just a couple of weeks ago, because last week was literally, no exaggeration, the busiest week, the most significant week in Sterling & Stone's
all hands on deck from everybody in the company.
Yeah, it was a crazy nuts week. I worked 300 hours in September, and I traveled, and so I wasn't looking forward to NINC, to be honest, at all. And I had to make the deck last weekend after this crazy, crazy week. So it was nuts. But it was worth it. Like, it was really great too. Once the deck was done, and I mean, we're all about reframing in the company. So one of the stories that Johnny told earlier today that I really like was back a few years ago when I had all this crap that I had to do that was just admin, just crap, right? Okay, we got to fix this cover, we got to do this, we got to do that, and make all the lists and all the things you have to do when you've been at it for a few years and you've been throwing shit against the wall, and now you're like, okay, I know what works, but I have to go fix all this stuff that doesn't work, and I hated it. It was admin every day. I'm not making new stuff, I'm fixing old stuff. But we reframed it. Instead of admin, it became inventory management. And inventory management is something you can make money on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so then I'm excited. Okay, inventory management. And once
you rebranded your admin.
Yes, exactly. And there is value in that.
Yeah.
So here it was the same thing. And we rebranded this as, at the end of the year, we do something called the Avalanche. And that's just all of our like vomit of information. This is what our next year looks like. And we're in Q4 now. So our job right now is to sew up this year and really plot out next year. And that's something that we don't normally do until around November. But we thought, you know what? We're going to be together for 5 days. So
yeah, and you were saying you don't actually get together in person very much at all, do you?
Once a week.
We do.
We do.
We have a regular recurring meeting it's usually 2 hours every week. Because we live 10 minutes from each other in Austin, Texas, and we walk a lot. But this is the sort of thing, we've been saying, even though we do live close to each other and we can do that, we wanted to basically sequester ourselves in, we're like a co-working space, a hotel room, something where we can't go home for,
Yeah, we were going to do our end of the year planning anyway, separate from, like, just lock ourselves down.
You just got to get in there with, like, a whiteboard, and what are we going to do with the next, the goals going forward? So we're like, well, we have lots of time now, so why don't we just combine them? And that was a really
so it just became, okay, now the job is to get the NINC deck done, but also get the entire outline for 2018 done so the 5 days we have together can be really fruitful.
Which was really easy, honestly, right?
Oh, yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, just to be clear.
Flowed.
Yeah, so this outline is about 10,000 words, and they're bullet points.
Wow.
But that's what our year looks like this year. And
we've been together for 2 days, and I think we've gotten through maybe 60% of it.
Maybe,
so it's ongoing.
Yeah, and we'll have to have actual discussions from all of those points. These are actually just getting through it once. So, but the key is, like last year, we did the same thing, and last year was a bigger deal. When we had the Avalanche, we flew everybody in from the company, and we sat there and we really focused and we broke it down. But this year, let's go back to last year. Last year, our number one goal, this is where we kind of define not just what our year looks like, but what our actual goals are.
John.
So we could like be tangible about this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. Because it's not just what, it's how. You can make an outline with a bunch of line items, but if you don't actually have the systems to put in place to do the line items, it's intellectual masturbation. Like, there's nothing to actually gain there. At least masturbation, you have something to show for when you're done. Like, this is nothing.
There's that explicit tag again.
Yeah, there we go. Just to nail it. And you're, okay, so, I mean, I do...
Well, to finish that thought, last year, our number one goal was to prepare for 2018.
That's the watchword for the entire
Yeah.
year. 2017's goal, prepare for 2018.
We had a lot of smaller goals.
Okay,
But
so 2018 is always going to be a big...
Like since 2015.
we've been preparing
Yeah.
for 2018 for several years
Yeah.
now. It's been our, like, look, we got to make baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. But we've always had our eye on 2018 as being Sterling and Stone's year. So now we've done everything in 2017 that we're supposed to do to kind of block that out and make the last year or the last quarter as significant as it can be so that we can do those tweaks so that 2018 can be the year that we've been dreaming about for a few.
Okay, and it is a complicated world that you live in, and each project, I'm trying to keep up with everything. It's one of the reasons I think we're going to chat with you today. But is 2018, is this going to be a very, very commercially driven year? Because I know you've started a few projects in the past and then decided that was horrible and moved on, which is great because we will learn and listen to that process. But are you kind of thought, I've done enough learning
it's
now?
a few things. I mean, a lot of it is internal. A lot of it is, we had a lot of just, I mean, business stuff. I know that this isn't probably interesting to the self-publishing formula audience, right? Like, but Sterling and Stone in general was it was bloated. Like, we needed to refine our internal systems. We didn't have like insurance and payroll and like we had people without job descriptions who were like, well, we just like these people. And so, refining the
we spent a lot
structure.
of this year hiring, or last year too, hiring people and not positions. And that's a huge difference. And until that light bulb went on for us and we realized, we're just hiring really awesome people, but we don't necessarily have a position that they can ROI, so they can feel good about their contribution to the company, and we can feel good about their contribution to the company. So we had to fix a few things before we could actually scale.
But we're very much where we want to be in terms of that right now. Like, Sterling and Stone is lean and mean. Like, our structure is sound. Like, we're protected. We're not doing things stupidly anymore. But now, like, just last week, Story Shop launched. Story Shop is
30 months.
After 30 months of development, and so that it's got the free writer module and 7-day trial free for the pro, and so that's out now. And so in 2018, one of the things we're going to want to do is scale that. We just launched Stories to Go, which is something that we're going to continue to iterate forward. And so we have 3 months to basically so now we're past kind of a low period right now where things were really, really tough and we were trying to realign everything.
We basically drained the bank account. Like, we went down to nothing. Like,
we more than drained the bank account.
Yeah, okay, so when I was...
That's always a bit scary.
Yes.
No, when I was 18 years old, I went on... My best friend was named Jimmy. And we went on this road trip. And the whole thing was, we don't know where we're going to go, because that's the adventure. Like, we're 18, we're just going to get in the car and drive. So we drove to Vegas, because that's what you do when you live in California.
Was there fear and loathing?
No, not yet. No fear or loathing, actually.
No.
So then we came back, and we were, crossing into the border, and we were kind of low on gas, and we thought, should we get gas or just keep going? And we decided to keep going because we were 18. No children, no family, fearless, no loathing, keep going. And we ran out of gas in front of the pump. We could not have...
I've done that.
Yeah, we could not have redlined
Yeah.
anymore. And this wasn't like there was a gas station 10 miles that way and 10 miles that way. We were in 100 miles of nothing. And we ran out in front of the pump. Like, the car just stopped. It was dead, and we were in front of the pump. And that's what we did in September at Sterling and Stone. But it's because you can't develop quality software for 30 months and not charge for it and just keep developing without there being a huge emotional and financial tax to the company. Right?
But that's what preparing has been about. It's been about how do we balance forward momentum and like continued smart investing in a time when we're like, dude, how are we going to pay our bills? Like, we need to balance those things. And honestly, I feel like we really did. Like,
no,
last
we
week,
really did. Yeah.
Last week we launched this. You've told this story like 3 times now, so I'm going to tell it now.
Well, it's so good.
Right. Last week we launched. We did a boot camp. We did a boot camp last year. I think this is a thing we're going to do now, just like a give to our audience. We did that. We did an initiative called Stories to Go, which is like collaborative packages that we're selling now. We launched Story Shop after 30 months of development, and we launched bringing writers in we're going to work with them on a production model, like we're going to show run going forward. And so that was a huge week. I mean, Sean mentioned he worked 300 hours, but everybody was over capacity. Everybody in the company was over capacity.
But it was also amazing to see all hands on deck, to see that everybody who works at the company loves the company so deeply.
And gave 5s on their 15-5. Like, they were like,
right. Okay,
we're overworked and we're really excited.
Yeah, so we have this thing called 15-5. And it's where everyone in the company kind of has to say, the premise for 15.5 is it takes 15 minutes to fill out and 5 minutes to evaluate. So like Johnny reports to me, I report to Johnny. We're supposed to spend 15 minutes thinking about our week and detailing this. This is where I'm at. And then I'm supposed to spend 5 minutes, checking that. He's supposed to spend 5 minutes. And everyone in the company does this. Everybody has someone that is checking in on them. So you're supposed to evaluate how you're feeling 1 to 5. And these fluctuate because life fluctuates. The job
and
fluctuates.
Somebody on the company was a 1.
Yeah, just
like just 2 weeks before.
So we have this huge, just crazy, all hands on deck, nutso. Everyone's working, no one's sleeping.
Everybody's at 120% of their hours or more.
And then they end the week with all 5s.
Wow.
So we've got a company filled with 5s, even though they're all overworked, and it's because they truly love what they're doing and what we're doing.
And that kind of doesn't surprise me, actually, particularly knowing you guys. But I mean, from my own point of view, it's purpose that drives you, right? And the people who are miserable at work just feel unengaged with it.
In life.
And if they were suddenly really busy and there was something critical for them to do, their satisfaction
and that's
level
actually
goes
something from, I don't want to go too off track topic, but that the book Good to Great by, who wrote that? Gino Wickman?
Yeah, no, actually I'm glad that you went there because that's Jim Collins.
Right, so the point of is like they looked at companies that had gone from good to great, unsurprisingly.
Wait,
but
they went from good to great?
They went from good to great, and they sustained it, and they had to start it good, they couldn't have started it great. And the number one thing in terms of like, it was like a visionary leader who was selfless, but also people who were driven by belief in the company. It wasn't like, it had nothing to do with salaries. I think it might have been negatively correlated.
Yeah,
like these people were underpaid.
People want appreciation more than they want
underappreciation to feel like they're part of something.
Yeah. And so to answer your question, like really the difference between going into next year and this year, we've tried a lot of things and a lot of things have failed. But right now, this actually comes from the same book, the hedgehog concept. And the companies that went from good to great, it's because they had a hedgehog concept. Do you want to talk about hedgehog? Or
the biggest thing that we did this year was the hedgehog concept. We have a thing in the company now that we call blinds in Manila. So what this means is,
and fuck you a little bit for
that. Totally fuck me a little bit for it. So Sean had an initiative where he didn't want to literally make like window blinds in Manila, but it was kind of like that.
For the record, this idea is awesome.
But it has nothing.
Right. It's probably $100 million idea, but it has nothing to do with our company.
Nothing to do with the company. I'm like, dude, what does this possibly have to do with what we're doing? He's like, well, it's based on storytelling. I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, not
very
really.
Sideways.
Everything is,
Right. So basically, everything has to connect to our core focus, and our company's mission basically is our 6-word intro is we tell story, we make stories and smarter artists. So everything needs to either be involved in storytelling or basically creative education. And if it doesn't relate to that, then we really shouldn't be doing it. We shouldn't be making rolling blinds in Manila. So the idea, like, right. So Story Shop is perfect because it is empowering artists, is making smarter artists. Stories to Go is making smarter artists. Where did we begin with this?
Well, no, it's because every single thing in the company touches everything else. Right. So if you rewound a year ago, the company ran on my fuel. But that's not...
and by fuel, we mean like, woo!
Yeah, like crazy ideas. And that's not necessarily the best way to run a company. So it was around a year ago. A year ago, we really realized, whoa, we're different people. And we were treating the company...
By different people, you mean
me
and
you. Yeah. We were treating... yeah, we're really making that case, aren't we? So we were running the company as co-CEOs. And that
Which
never
is
works.
Stupid.
Like, you don't do that. So now I'm the CEO, he's the COO, and that means I have the ideas.
You're the visionary and I'm the articulator.
Right.
It's not an exact comparison.
And if you read what's the book, Rocket Fuel, they really go into this, where great companies can run with a visionary and an articulator, but they're different people with different functions. So the analogy I really, really love is, I'll get up in the air, but Johnny has to help me land the plane. Right?
And you also need somebody to tell you no.
And I need someone to tell me no. Mm-hmm. So our CFO,
that's my wife.
His wife,
okay.
No, because I do answer problems with money. I'm just so don't care about money as much as I care about momentum. Mm-hmm. So I'll spend my way out of things, right? Throw more money at Story Shop. Throw money at this idea. And that's not, we need to have a lean business that makes sense quarter to quarter. And it can't just, go on my raw enthusiasm. So from November on of last year, we've really taken great pains to make sure that we're making the right decisions for the right reasons, and we're putting the right initiatives on our plate.
And everything has to serve more than two masters. That's the other thing. Like, Story Shop can't just be like, we're building this cool software product. It has to be something that ties into, it ties into Stories to Go.
Right, so the Stories to Go products go into Story Shop. Story Shop is what we build everything in. It's part of our future publishing model, and the way that we're going to keep adding modules to that, and kind of, we want everybody using that. So Story Shop is the bridge. It's smarter artists using it. We're using it. Stories to Go is, I know we haven't talked very much about that.
I know, I want to talk about both of them from a sort of consumer point of view as well.
But that is, it works for us because we're creating inventory that has no spoilage. And I come from the flower business, right?
I remember.
No spoilage in this flower business.
Yeah, well, dude, if you're in the flower business, it's the worst thing ever. So, like, on Valentine's Day, you have this inventory, which is really expensive. Like, we'll spend $20,000 on inventory before Valentine's Day with fresh flowers. Guess how much that inventory is worth on February 15th?
Yeah.
Right? So it's all gamble, and you're not creating any assets. So that was very much in my mind as we were building Stories to Go. What can we do where we build forever assets? So we built something that is 100%. So we can take it right off the shelf, and now we're going to build this for ourselves, or someone can buy it. But there's no spoilage. Either way, it's IP. Okay. We're either selling the IP or we're using the IP in a queue, because now we're doing the production model, so we'll have other writers who could pull stuff off the shelf.
So it's not a million miles away from a cover designer using their rejected covers as a off-the-shelf pre-designed.
Well, okay, yes, but here's the difference. Sorry. So here's the difference. With a cover designer, they're rejected covers. So here we're actually putting on our marketers' hats and reverse engineering what a bestseller looks like. So what does a bestseller look like, smell like, feel like?
You're basically starting with the primary conversion elements. That's what I love about Stories to Go. So you can.
Shall we focus on Stories to Go and then do Story Shop?
You're the boss, man.
Yeah. So just because I think people are intrigued by this, and it's a very interesting concept. So is it Stories to Go?
Yes.
Just explain the concept first of all.
Okay. Do you want to talk about how you hated the idea for a while?
Well, I didn't understand the idea. So Stories to Go, it's at storiestogo.io. And basically the idea is it's a collaboration package. But I didn't understand it, to Sean's point, because I'm like, why would somebody want to buy basically an outline and a cover and some meetings and stuff? I just didn't get it until it dawned on me that this is basically exactly how I write. Sean creates the characters and the world and creates an outline. I don't make the cover. I don't come up with the marketing plan. I don't have to worry about a collaborative partner because I have one. And that's what Stories to Go is based on, is we're basically like, if you're the person you don't have to worry about getting hung up on what's going to happen next. You just write the draft. And that's the sort of thing that we're like, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, the tagline is, we collaborate, you keep the copyright. Right? So
I was going to ask about that. What's the long term for the company, for Sterling Stone? Is it an off-the-shelf package that's sold? There's obviously collaboration.
Yeah.
Or do you hold on to some rights?
No rights. No, we hold no rights. But so like Dave had a hard time with this. You know Dave, right?
Yeah.
So Dave was like, wait a minute. You're asking me to outline stuff that we're not even going to write? And he's bothered by this, right? But we've taught him that ideas aren't precious. Dave's superpower is telling stories. He doesn't have to write a 100,000-word version of that story. He can tell the 3-act structure version of that story. And so we got very good at that 3-act structure, because a competent writer who understands structure or can at least adhere to structure is going to be much more successful than a competent writer who is or a great writer even, who doesn't adhere to structure, because readers need structure. Repeat readers need structure. They crave structure. And when we're trying to navigate beyond that, that's when we don't sell books. If you look at our catalog, the books that we're kind of winging it are the books that don't do as well as the books that are structured.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. So yes, it's kind of like rejected covers, but we didn't approach it that way. What we approached is, these aren't rejected covers, they're covers designed.
I don't think it's rejected covers, because honestly, like, we on a lark a few years ago we said we're going to write a book based on a cover. We had a cover that we really liked. It's a whole long story. Jason Gurley, cover designer, was retiring. The only way we could get a cover from him was a pre-made. So we're like, okay, well, if we can do this, we're going to turn lemons into lemonade. We're going to write a story based on
the cover,
rather than the other way around. And we're like, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah, at the time, it was our favorite book we'd ever written.
And so the idea of saying, because what most people do is they write the book, and then they're like, okay, let me try to make a commercial cover, hopefully out of this. Let me try to write a commercial blurb. We're flipping that around and saying, cover is the #1 conversion element, basically deciding whether people buy your book. The product description is the #2 conversion element. So let's start with the cover.
And with the cover, it's not just the cover, it's the concept and the tagline.
Yeah.
So we're copywriters. We get that. And if we can take care of all the base conversion elements, look, we know what popular genres, we know what a popular cover is going to, we know what BookBub's going to accept, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't know what BookBub's going to accept, but we understand that they're a conversion company, that their main allegiance is not to authors, it's to readers. And so they have to protect that relationship by giving the readers the best thing. So they're conversion experts. So if they see a cover that is, wow, that's a very commercial cover with a commercial tagline that we know readers are going to click on, and wow, is that a good product description? That's the stuff that even really competent writers that can take it 90% of the way can't get the rest of the way. And this sets them up for success ahead of time because all that stuff is just taken care of.
So I mean, it's a very focused commercial approach, and it's very reminiscent of Adam Croft, who started with his tagline, would you kill your daughter to save your... Would you kill your wife to save your daughter?
See, that's fantastic.
He started with that.
Yeah.
He started with the Facebook advert, then he went and wrote the book. Okay. And it was the book that changed his life.
Yes, that's really smart. And people, I think a lot of artists like reject that. They think, well, oh, I'm selling out. How are you selling out? As long as you tell the story that you want to tell and connect with readers, aren't you doing much better for yourself than, what would you rather do? Sell out or be, like, suffer obscurity?
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here about that, but yeah, I know you do hear some people saying, oh, tacky.
Well, a lot
tacky
of
and poor.
But yeah, right. So but the thing is, we have never seen it as sacrifice at all. We love the stories that we tell. So even if we start out from a commercial place, there's still a story that is very much me, is very much Johnny, is very much Dave. So that's the whole thing. Dave was writing these stories, and for us, there's no spoilage. So yes, someone can take it off the shelf and write that, but if they don't, we still can.
Oh, there's covers that I hope never sell. You know, Dave is too. We're like, oh man, I hope that doesn't sell because I want to write that one. I don't want somebody else to buy that.
Or showrun it.
So how many have you done? How many?
40.
Yeah, we've done one.
Wow.
Yeah, this
no
is
wonder you have no time in your lives.
Well, that was a crazy month.
It was crazy, yeah. But the whole idea is we want it to be like a gallery. So it's not like you can just go to storyshop.io.
Stories to go.
Sorry, stories to.
We'll move on to stories.
It's not like you can just go to stories2go.io and shop. Because we need to control the inventory, and because they're collaboration packages, we can't just have people coming in any time, and then our calendars are, up in the air. So we need to have people come in, and then basically it's a gallery opening. So we're building a list for this. We're opening the gallery. It's open from this window of time, and then we're closing it, and we'll go build more to fill the next gallery and open it again.
And then tell me about the process. So somebody comes in off the list, browses the gallery. They read a description, or do they see the whole thing?
Let me take this because I'm the articulator, right?
Okay.
So basically, there's a deposit. We're wondering how we're going to do this. Currently, it's people put down a deposit, and then they're able to see they see a short synopsis and the cover, obviously, and the tagline, and then they put down a deposit. They can see the full version of the entire outline. If they want to proceed, they go ahead and they pay in full. It is a premium product. I mean, I'll just say it right here. It's $5,000 because it's a high touch product. Then we get in touch with them, and they will have a 1-hour story meeting. For the first batch, it's with us. By the time this airs, it won't be with us.
Yeah.
We're grooming story coaches. They'll have a 1-hour story meeting about the outline where they can ask their questions. They can say, I want to personalize it in this way. There are the changes I want to make.
Right, because they truly are story starters. So even if you don't like the title, let's say, you can change the title. Now, the titles are like copywritten. We did think about what is a commercial title for this cover. Now, having said that, you could change the cover. You could change the title. You can make tweaks to it. But we suggest,
you put some thought into this.
Yeah, we gave you it's not just a cover and a story. It is a marketing package. It is a package where I think there's two authors that this really, really helps. Either the person who needs a really big head start, right? So I can write a competent story, but I don't know story structure, and there's so much to figure out with, indie publishing. But if I work with, I'll let you finish because there's so much more to it.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Or a copywriter who is really, really fast at writing copy, but doesn't necessarily know what genre to choose or or isn't really familiar with story structure, like somebody who can write well but has so many question marks, it's just an amazing head start.
Right. So they would have the 1 hour story meeting with their story coach, or in this first round, us. They would also have a 1 hour meeting with a character consultant, basically, because our character starters are just they're brief. They're just very skeletal. You know, I want this person to be the hero with a heart of gold or something like that, hooker with a heart of gold, and then they flesh them out, and they'll have that interview, and then our person will flesh them out, basically help them to create fuller characters.
Right, because hooker with a heart of gold is great as a one-liner, but that's not enough to write a book.
Right. And then it's their job to then take what we've given them, what we've discussed, go back and rewrite, flesh out the outline, create something that is more to them.
So if you have a 6,000 word outline, make it 10,000 words. Add your own ideas from the story, and you get a recording of the story meeting. You get transcripts.
So this is the purchaser.
Yes.
Then fleshes it out, and they start to storyteller. Okay, yeah, and they start to add in their own voice at this point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, and then there are 3.
So wait. So part of the story meeting.
You will get to finish.
I know.
I'm gonna let you finish. Part of the story meeting isn't just about the story; it's about the author, which is important.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
What kind of author?
So it's partly your story guys listening to the author, not the other way around always.
Yes, because it has to be.
It has to be their story.
It has to be their story, and a lot of it we're building a series because that's where the money is, right? So we have to know who you are as an author so that we can articulate the story that you can actually take to the finish line and further, right?
So then they will basically go back, and once they have a completed outline, they'll give it to us for a story jacket, which is our term it's our service for, it's a developmental edit on an outline, basically. If you get a developmental edit on a book, that can be really costly in terms of...
It can cost more than a story to go.
And you have to spend a bunch of time fixing something.
Which is
once the draft is already done. Right, exactly.
Price.
So this would be something at the outline stage. It would be a comment or a critique, and then they would go back and revise that. Then they would write the draft, and they have 3 collaborative meetings during the process where they can save them up, or they can have
Act
them
1,
throughout.
Act 2, Act 3, or just all at once if you need that.
Once they're done, then it is currently, in the current model, it's then in their court to get it edited. Future iterations will include editing, but not this first one. Or maybe even the second one. We haven't decided yet. And then once they're totally done and ready to launch, they'll get in touch. We'll have another meeting with one of our marketing and launch experts who will create a custom marketing plan for them and deliver it.
That's, again, based on who they are as an author.
Correct.
So what are your assets on a list? What genre? Because it really does depend. And we found that after working with the apprentice authors for 9 months, that all of our advice had to be tailored to each person. Because you just really can't. And actually, this is good to circle around too, because I remember the first time that I was on the show, I talked a little bit about building a course, right? And we struggled with this for years, years, because our audience really wants us to build a course. They've always wanted us to build a course. And there's a part of us that's wanted to build a course. I mean, it's certainly the money is good and we could do it once, build the asset, sell it over and over. But after working with the apprentices, we really felt like there's no way to teach what we do without the experience of it. And we just kept beating ourselves beating our heads against the wall. How do we create a course that teaches this and actually gives people an asset? It's not just...
Yeah. So in that creative space that you're talking about, it would become a mediocre product because you're trying to make it fit everyone.
And so instead of making a mediocre product that goes to everybody, we made the product that we think would actually work for fewer people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which is the other way of doing that. So when's this launch? You've got a few loose ends.
Gallery 1 is live right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So by the time this goes, I'm sure it'll be closed. So it'll be like a waiting list situation. We'll let people know.
And how many are you going to onboard?
Well,
all 40?
40.
Are you going to sell all 40?
But again, I mean, this is from the flower merchandising thing. We never expect we're going to sell all 40. That's just not the way it works.
But what's awesome is that we literally don't care. Yeah. So Dave kind of...
But you could sell 40.
I mean, that's theory.
Yeah, we could sell. We've done well so far. But Dave is actually hoping that his don't sell so that he has his next book.
You got them individually latched to you, have you?
Well, but they shouldn't be. Okay. That is kind of the way that it happened. But in theory, story is story. So Dave shouldn't consult on a romance because he doesn't understand what happily ever
Yeah,
after
we've actively,
means.
a couple of people had bought romances. And
When does he murder her? I don't
Well,
understand.
right. No, a couple of people, because for this first batch, that was the promise. You could ask for me or Dave or Johnny. And there was somebody who bought a romance, and they requested Dave. And we both had to say no. No, like, yes, you can ask for anybody, but you really shouldn't ask for Dave for a romance. That's not going to serve you. And that's part of our job, too, is to create these packages. It's to take it all the way. Like, who are you as an author, and what does success mean to you?
And just to finish the journey then, so they launch when they're ready. You sort of do a marketing plan for them and so on. And then you get nothing more.
Right.
Oh, us? No, we get nothing more.
Okay. You must have discussed this as being a possibility for, I mean, Dave, you said, was balked at this.
Well,
as being a possibility that you hold on to 10% or something?
It's a premium product. Like we make what we make on the front end.
Yeah,
but honestly,
okay.
like what you need to make on the back end to make up the cost of this is really not that much.
Yeah, and we could overproduce, but the key is we're still producing things that our writers can write. And and we're gonna find there are gonna be some writers who end up publishing with us just because.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right? So it's a way for us to filter a little bit too.
Yeah, and do you expect people to come back to you for the second and third in the series?
I think we'll have some definite repeat customers. I think there will be some people who find this so efficient that it's just like, I mean, honestly, I could see not me because I have the team and we write this way, but if I was a solo person and I knew I could just drop $5,000 to save me all that time and I could just write, I could write a book every few weeks.
Especially the subsequent books in the series took some sort of a discount or a package deal or something like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Again, it has to be for the right writer.
Yeah.
For a lot of writers, this is it
terrible
would be a waste.
product,
It'd be a terrible thing for them. But for the right writer who understands conversion and can really, you have to be able to write fast so you can be able to do it again and again and again. But I mean, we spend more than $5,000 in pre-production every single time.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, I think a lot of authors don't think about the amount that they spend on pre-production. I think a lot of authors spend way more than $5,000 if they're actually counting their time, but they don't. They think my time is free, and so therefore the time I'm in pre-production is free. So my pre-production was $0, but I spent $100, or 100 hours on it. Well, that doesn't add up at all.
No. Okay, so the two main products that you've talked about, Story to Go.
Yes.
And Story Shop, can barely talk. Story Shop, let's move on to that.
We have that effect on you.
Yeah, I can barely talk now. They are quite difficult to say though, fair to me.
We like all that stuff. Story Shop, Stories to Go.
You do speech recognition, yeah. So Story Shop, who wants to launch on Story Shop?
I'll go on Story Shop. What can I
Will
tell
you be
about
allowed to
Story Shop?
finish?
I guess.
I'm
I
not
don't
going to
know.
say anything for 5 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do I begin? I mean, Story Shop it was built as, so we did a Kickstarter. The idea was we've done pre-production on kind of just a pencil and notepad sort of. I mean, not literally. Like we did it in Scrivener. What I'm talking about here is basically casting characters, deciding who these characters are. If we're going to do a movie, we tend to cast them. What actor would play this character? So that's shorthand. We understand kind of what the mannerisms are, like how they are, what their mood is. Locations. Where does the story take place? What does the office of this person look like? Says a lot about the character. What are the major kind of elements that are in the story? And then obviously the beats, which is our outline. And so we used to just do that we did it in Scrivener, and it was kind of clumsy because nothing was connected. So we'd have a bunch of individual files. And so Micah Ryan is related to Isaac Ryan. Okay, let me figure out who Isaac Ryan is because I'm in Michael's thing, and there he is. There's his file in Scrivener. And so Story Shop it's a web app where everything is connected. So contextually, like you would establish Micah is Isaac's brother in this example, and it's mutual. So if you look on Micah's page, it's like almost like a social media profile. So if you look at Micah's profile, it would give basically here's who he is, here's who he'd cast, his brother is Isaac, and you were able to click over to Isaac and say, okay, here's who Isaac is, here's what he's like. And one of the early mantras was connect all the things. So everything needs to be able to be referenceable by everything else. So you're writing the outline, you say, I'll stick with the Ryans. Micah and Isaac Ryan are together, but they're a contextual hot link. So it'd be like, you'd be typing, you say, at Micah, and okay, Micah Ryan from the list. And then as you're reading through the outlines as you go, you can click on Micah. Who is Micah? And a shadow box appears and says, okay, here's who he is. And originally it was planned as just like it was a planning tool. It was pre-production, just so you know what your story is, so you know what the outline
to help
is.
with consistency and avoid.
Oh, canon control is huge.
Yeah.
So the examples I've given, that hasn't been 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
Micah and Isaac Ryan are characters from our world, The Beam. The Beam is an incredibly complex world. So keeping track of who knows what secrets, who is with what political party, what happened in what year is really, really hard. To the point where
It has an 80-year timeline before our story.
before the story begins, so we won't write Beam Season 4 until we have all this stuff put in StoryShop, because I don't want to read all 3 books to try and figure out who is related to whom.
It's
and
500,000 words.
it's ridiculous. So that was the idea, was it's based on the world. What does the world look like? Who is the president of the world? What are the key elements of the world, the political parties? Andy Weir said that for his next book he was reinventing physics, because he's not ambitious or anything.
No.
So like if you have rules of swords, like if you have magic in your world, what are the rules of the magic? That sort of thing. You need to keep track of what all that is. And so everything is contextually linked within the beats, which is our outline. And that's where we were going to stop, until we said, you know what, it doesn't make sense to create a planning environment and then have to export or be jumping back and forth. And I've done this. So I would go into Scrivener and be writing and have a web browser open with StoryShop and be like, okay, let me click back and forth. So we said, let's create a writing environment within StoryShop. And so now, at launch, you can click back and forth. Like, okay, I'm going to write this chapter. You click over, you can still reference all the beats, reference all the people in the beats. It has distraction-free mode and all this stuff. And it's now a complete suite. And we're going to just continue to develop and develop it.
And you can reverse engineer it a bit, so you'll decide to make changes to relationships. If
Oh yeah,
you need another
sure.
brother, you need to stop this guy being
and it's
related.
smart enough. So if you say that Isaac or Rachel is Isaac's mother, well, it automatically populates that on Micah because they're brothers.
Yeah.
So they clearly have the same mother, and so and if you change that, it'll change it on the other one too.
So a very different product
Yes.
to sort of the craft side of things. And this is developed by, you're not coders, you guys?
Oh no. We have we partnered originally with a guy named Seth Atwood, and he's a wizard.
Okay.
He's just kind of
We know the
amazing.
rules of magic.
Yeah. He's
them.
basically has this beautiful balance of left and right brain. So he really likes typography and aesthetics and all that, but he's also a brilliant coder. So, I mean, it's been a slow road, 30 months, but it started out with Seth had a really great app idea, and he said, hey, can I talk to you about an app I want to do? And we talked for an hour, and I gave him some feedback. And then I said, I have an idea for an app. And I told him, at the time it was called Master Beats. And then, I don't know, like, a week later, he called in and he said, we need to build this other thing.
Okay.
And so that was a long time ago, and we very slowly but consistently tried to get our systems and our routine and what helps us create better stories faster in a system and a tool that everybody can use.
And what does it run on? Is it?
It's on the web. It's cloud-based.
Okay.
And honestly, I didn't understand this at all, because this is something that we were developing. I had trust and faith that I would get used to it. But I was like, I don't know, like cloud writing, that doesn't make any sense. Although Ulysses is that way. So, but I've been using it, and I'll go upstairs and I'll write, and then I'll stop for the day, and I just kind of leave the window open. I don't close browser tabs. In the morning, I'll be downstairs and I'll be on my wife's laptop, and okay, well, it's still right there. I just go to the same page and continue writing. It's
constantly
amazing.
saves.
Yeah.
And it's really elegant, and it's only going to get more so. So it took a long time to get there, and actually the first version that we'd spent almost $100,000 on, we threw in the trash and started over.
That was great.
Which was devastating.
A good moment for everyone.
Well,
Yeah.
we just knew that we couldn't go forward with what we had because it wasn't good enough.
It was built on the wrong technology stack.
We were basically trying to change the way people write, and you can't do that with anything less than just fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. And where is this available, and how much is it?
It's at storyshop.io. It's $9.99 a month, or $99 a year. Although we do now have, so basically the writer component, the part where you just write, has rudimentary outlining capability, nothing like the robust stuff I talked about. It's actually free for up to 3 stories. So if you want to just write and do rudimentary planning, it's free forever. It does have a free 7-day trial of what we're calling StoryShop Pro, which includes everything. But the basically $9.99 a month or $9.99 a year. And we did choose the software as a service model, which people push back a little bit on, but Ulysses has established that. And the beauty of that, I don't want to go too far in depth on this, but a pay once model doesn't have any incentive for the developer to continue making it better, because you have to continually market to new customers. So our idea is, once anything we make in, 90% of it or more is going right back into development, because we have timelines that we want to establish. We want to build more templates. There's a ton of other things. So
well, and for us, it is our tool. Like, the whole thing is we built it.
Build it what we want.
Yeah, we built what we want, and we want a lot more than what it does right now.
Right.
Like, we're really happy with where it is, but it needs to go a lot further. If we say, what does 5 years from now look like, we're really far from there. So we need millions of dollars to build the thing that we actually want to use, that's going to change storytelling for everybody.
It's going well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Especially after launch. Like, getting it up to launch was just, everybody was all hands on deck, and I mean, when we threw it away, that was a fun day. But yeah, I mean, I just love it. It's my tool now.
Yeah, the version that we have right now is really pleasant to use. Like, it's a delightful experience, and I haven't actually written in it yet. Johnny's been able to write in it, but all of my work has been planning and not actual writing. But I cannot imagine going back to what it's like to work without it. And I actually had to do that for Stories to Go, because because it was a lot of writing and not planning. And so, because we're just, once we expand on those stories, then you write characters and stuff like that. But this was basically just 40 paragraphs. And when we started it, Writer wasn't quite finished yet. So I just ended up having to do everything in just plain old Word, and I hated it. It was like, oh my, this is like, I feel like I went back in time.
Yeah, well, this is, I mean, could be huge. I mean, Scrivener has turned into a huge monster. I mean, you talk about the subscription model. Personally, I prefer it with all my software now. We use Adobe Creative Cloud for this stuff, and I much prefer the subscription that gets updated with the latest stuff.
I do too. People
automatically
update. I prefer it too, because I just think of it as a business expense.
What exactly?
And in business do you get to pay for once and then continually use it to improve your business and never pay for it again?
And it gets better all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Scrivener kind of stands out as being unusual because it's kind of one-off.
Yes, but look how slow development is.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you Keith, the Scrivener guy, wishes that he had a subscription model 10 years ago, because
So
he'd be a gazillionaire for a start.
yes, you know what? If he had done that 10 years ago, there would have been no room for StoryShop, because Scrivener would be amazing. But they've had stunted development because they need money.
But we're a collaborative company, and some of our main, I mean, we do love Scrivener. I mean, I am so not going to.
We wouldn't have a career with us.
Yeah, I love Scrivener. But that said, we had a lot of problems with collaboration on it, because we're collaborative writers.
Yeah,
Sean it's not a collaborative tool.
Yeah, Sean could never work on a project while I was in it, because only one person can have it open at once. We had Dropbox sync issues because the files are so big. Now it's real-time collaborative.
Too.
Yeah, like, you can see, it's almost like Google Docs, where you can see somebody's typing right now. You can watch the words form on the page.
Yeah, we had a World Builder Summit a couple of months ago, and StoryShop wasn't out yet, publicly the way it is now. But we were using it in-house, and we had it tested, because there were going to be 9 people in the world at the same time. We were handling it like a writer's room, and we wanted to make sure there was no lag or slowdown, and we could all be on it at the same time. And we field tested it, 9 people in the world at the same time, and there's no lag, there's no slowdown, and that's a beautiful thing, because we are a collaborative company. So without a collaborative tool, we're handicapped.
And down the road, we can't do this right now, but the intention is to have a full suite of editor's tools. So right now, you still have to export to Word just like you would with Scrivener, because track changes. So this is what we're talking about, future development. Being able to do track changes in Scrivener would be amazing. You just give your editor access to the world. It never has to leave your writing tool. And they can work in it while you're writing on your stuff.
And that's exactly it. Yeah. We're trying to build more things like planning tools, anything that you can do to stay in your workspace. StoryShop is a really intentional name. Like, we wanted a workshop feel. Yeah. So you go there to create. You should not be changing tools from your planning to your editing.
It is such a pain having to export to it. I hate it.
Right. Yes. If you have one environment where everything from the first seed of an idea to your eventual compile is all in one place, and you include your planning, like, okay, we're going to have this. I mean, this is years away, but your planning stuff everything should be in there. It should be one tool. And right now, authors, creatives need way too many tools to get their stuff done.
This will be really cool in a few years when there's editors who have Story Shop certified on
Yes,
there, where you
absolutely.
know
Right,
that they
yeah.
can
Yeah,
like
yeah.
0 or whatever. So
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
accountants, well, as always, you're not too ambitious. You just want to change everything the way that we do things.
Just a little.
We haven't even scratched the surface how we
Yeah.
want to change the world, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But we've been going for 45, 50 minutes. It's been brilliant. I mean,
We have a history of that.
yeah, the energy in the room is always strong. Particularly Sean, you I feel like I'm recharged slightly whenever I talk to Sean.
That's
And you-
great.
Oh, that's
because
nice
I feel
because-
empty.
And I usually feel exhausted.
Yeah, I can.
You should,
I have to filter
you
all
should
this.
talk to my wife because
Yeah.
she could probably use some of that.
It's been great. Well done for this afternoon. You went down really well at Nink, and I know you've said in the past, John, you're kind of a little bit shy. I know you're on the
I'm
podcast.
not though. No.
You're not
He
really-
might be. He seems like an extrovert, but he's not.
Okay.
I actually love being in front of people. I'm like an ambivert, right? I need to recharge a bit, but I dig being in front of people. I thought that was great.
I know, I feel really exposed. But I mean, I'm good at it. Like, once I'm up there and I'm feeling especially, like, it was easy today because I had Johnny with me, so I wasn't alone. The last time I had to keynote, I actually bitched out. And,
We're a little codependent.
You get nervous.
well, yeah, I get really
Yeah.
nervous and I hate it. And I was.
You had to call a security blanket up on stage.
I
Yeah.
did. Yeah,
Oh,
it was for Jonathan Field's Good Life Camp Good Life.
Okay.
And I was supposed to do the Saturday morning keynote, and I just lost my shit. And I went up to him. I'm like, Jonathan, I'm sorry, but can we just sit up on the stage like together on bar stools and you just interview me? And then he asked me like 3 questions, and then I was fine.
I mean, no one would think that
Yeah.
about you. But
Yeah.
there you go. Look, it's been brilliant. We're going to bring it to an end. I hope you'll come back on the show
Anytime.
at some point. And I think you're going to have a few visitors to the 2 big new products.
Yeah,
So.
you all do great work, and we're happy to support it however we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. I really enjoyed chatting to them. They are a force to be reckoned with in this sphere, and we had we carried on chatting afterwards, obviously, and over a few beers in the evening, and made the point that we are still in the early adopter phase of self-publishing, and there are lots of ideas flying around, and they're obviously full of ideas and coming up with new things all the time, new products, etc. And no one really knows what this is going to look like in 10 years. I mean, that's the truth of it, and how this is quite going to work. And I do think that you're not going to see, in 10 years' time, will it be the case of somebody working in isolation, trying to find a cover designer, find themselves an editor, find a community to help them, guide them through, or will there be, it won't be the big publishers, because I think they're never going to quite get themselves together with that, but there'll be organizations that will be your holding hand through it in a more hands-on way than we are, where we encourage people to do everything themselves. I think some organizations will spring up that help you with the story development, etc. And I guess that's where SPP, we should say Sterling Stone, are positioning themselves at the moment.
Yeah, they're moving into lots of different areas. I mean, it is very hard to say how things will pan out over the next few years. There'll be all kinds of different options available for writers who want different kinds of things, I suppose. I mean, for me personally, it's I'm always going to be the stories will always be my stories, and there'll be things that I've worked on, I'm passionate about. But other writers may have different views about that. So yeah, it's interesting. There's going to be lots of changes as things continue to evolve.
Yeah, and some things are controversial and some things aren't, and we'll see, won't we? Some things will fly, some things will sink. We know that from our own experience. We just have to be, I think, wary, particularly with the bigger companies, and we get quite a few people who come to us very often and say, I published my first book last year, it cost me $25,000 and it didn't sell. And I'm thinking, why did it cost you $25,000? Because you went to a company that asked you for $25,000 to do some of the basic work that you can do yourself, and you've got to be very wary of that. So they're the people we need to be aware of. The big traditional publishers who, frankly, who were we talking to the other week? I was listening to, I think it was John Birmingham, wasn't it, in his interview a couple of weeks ago, who said, in all honesty, the traditional publishers would probably like to kill off the ebook, because they see it, and that when it first came along, they thought this was going to be great for them, and now they're terrified by what's happening to it. So you have to be wary of them as well, unless they can find it in themselves to adapt. But this other cadre of companies, of which I think we position ourselves there, these are the ones that are, the names you've never heard of 2 or 3 years ago, are the ones that are going to be part of this exciting new world, this multi-billion turnover industry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's it is worth remembering. I say this a lot, that we are at the start of things, and it's easy to forget that's true. And it's I speak at enough conferences all around the world really this year when people have no idea what's possible and no idea whatsoever. And I think the last time I did that, but just people coming up to me and saying I didn't know that I could publish to Amazon myself, and that's very basic. So if you don't know that, then you won't know anything else about half the stuff that we talk about on this show. So we're all people listening are the things to take away from this. Here's my Christmas thought. Mark's Christmas thought for the year is that you are in the 1% of people at the absolute maximum, probably less than that, of everyone who is interested in writing or who is writing. The fact that you're listening to a podcast about self-publishing with James in his shed and me in my office is that you are ahead of the crowd. You have a great advantage, and it is you stand to do much better because you're forward thinking and prepared to look at different ways of doing things. So well done to you for being in that position and for putting up with us for nearly 100 episodes.
Yeah, this is quite exciting for us, isn't it? We're about to tick over. So episode 98 in this episode, and it's the pajama set, really. There should be a podcast called The Pajama Set that encompasses the army of individuals across the globe now who don't leave their home and run significant businesses, whether it's a business that gives them enough money to pay their mortgage and live their life, or it's a business that's making them rich. We are the Pajama Set.
Yeah, I'll come back to you on that. You leave the copy to me.
Yeah.
You stay. You make us look and sound good.
I'm just going to get onto our lawyers and copyright that one, just in case for the future. Good. Okay. Look, it's an opportunity for us to say a very happy Christmas, happy holidays, as I believe you say in the United States. Happy Christmas. Probably in other parts of the world, something else. But we're going to say happy Christmas because we're in the UK. It's been an absolute privilege as ever to have you with us this year. Thank you so much indeed for listening. It's a growing community. It's a community that we are thrilled to be a part of. We love it when you tweet us, when you drop a note on Facebook, or you email us at support@selfpublishingformula.com. And we love it when you listen and take part. Don't forget, you can join our Patreons, people who support the podcast, with a small donation each week at patreon.com/SPF podcast. And if you're in the gold level, there's lots of goodies coming your way, not just the mug, but the chance to win courses, the chance to win an analysis of your marketing setup. Good. I think that's it. So happy Christmas, Mark.
Happy Christmas, James.
I've got my jumper on, but you actually look like Father Christmas, so.
I do. Yeah. No, I'm one of the things on my Christmas. This is actually a beard maintenance kit. And it's ridiculous. The things you could buy these days: 150 quid for a wooden box with a comb, some scissors, and some kind of hair stuff for beards. It's a complete rip-off, but I want one.
You're a marketing man's dream.
I am, yeah. Terrible.
You should definitely tell your kids. You should start hinting that the reason you've been growing this grey beard start disappearing off.
That is going to be busy.
Yeah, 24 hours. Good, thank you very much. It's Christmas week, so you don't have to write this week. You don't have to do your marketing. You can relax and spend time with your family. So I'm not going to say my new normal payoff thing. Just have a really lovely week, and we'll speak to you one more time in 2017. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingformula.com for more information, show notes, and links on today's topics. You can also sign up for our free video series on using Facebook ads to grow your mailing list. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.